And we're live. He was 4 years old when his father walked out the door in Boston. A seminal moment of abandonment, buried under 2 master's degrees, a Harvard education, and a 21-year career in the SEAL teams. Possibly a people pleaser, but one who definitely graduated from the original 18 in Bud Class 214. He had to face a reality potentially more dangerous than Baghdad, and that was his transition back to civilian life. Today, we sit with a Mustang officer who survived the losses of 31 friends, including 2 teammates from Operation Red Wing and Extortion 17 crash, only to find a new mission in public safety as an AI pioneer with ZeroEyes and a newly formed 4th phase initiative that also includes self-recovery, self-discovery, and self-agency. All important attributes that we will discuss. JJ, you said you've truly figured out life at 49. To get us there, I have to ask a 3-part question. Are you ready?
Shoot.
All right. Who are you? Who have you been? And who are you becoming?
Starting off heavy, Miles. Like I couldn't wait.
Let's bring it, baby.
I mean, right with the trauma. Like I could feel the feelings already when you started to mention I was 4 years old. So that's part of the longer story. But first and foremost, honored to be a guest on your show. Like I said, I've been watching some of your stuff, blown away. All the topics that are relevant, that are foremost in, I think, society today. So you're hitting them all. You've got some great guests. You've had some great guests on. The ketamine guy was phenomenal. I need to go back and listen to that again. But say I'm honored to have you. I can tell that you're a genuine host. You just got a great heart. I don't even need to meet you in person to know it. So thanks for having me on. Super pleasure. So who am I? Yeah, I'm a overeducated, unrealized being, I think. And I say that, yeah. So on paper, I'm a paper tiger. Yeah, been through there. Bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees. One of them was an EMBA from the Harvard PLD, Naval Postgraduate School MBA, and then worked in Wall Street. So fortunate enough to have been educated, kind of worked my way through the system. So I'm just a young kid who grew up with a single mom from Brockton, Massachusetts, back in the 80s, Generation X, the greatest generation. Yep, know how to survive. Went home when the street lights went on. Actually got in trouble for not doing that every night on the bike with friends. Yeah, grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts. You and I discussed that the boxing picture behind you. My neighbor was Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I love bringing that out now because it just, Generation Xers know who that is, the middleweight champion. City was Rocky Marciano, right? City of Champions, Brockton, Mass. So my sister grew up with his nephews, cohorts there, Stephen, Peter, Rocco Marciano. So she was a high schooler with those cats. She's 2 years older than me. So it's just me and my sister growing up with my mom. Non-present father, which matters because it plays into my kind of where I ended up, how I ended up there, and which way it could have gone. If both my parents have since passed away. I did have contact with him. It wasn't a no contact sport with the father, but he just wasn't not present in life at all. And so that was in a lot of ways drove me to end up in the SEAL teams. And we can talk about that later on if you want to get into that. So where am I now? So yeah, 21 years in the teams, all combat. I pretty much, except my last 3 or 4 years, did a couple operations tours, was an instructor at Buds, and then ran the command. Under the tutelage of Admiral Mark Schaefer, who is right now SOC South 2-star, godfather of my kids, awesome dude, and a phenomenal team guy and a great leader. We're born to do. You talk about. You saw my website. It says, "Is leadership innate or is it taught?" Right. So that's the question. It's my theory. It's innate. Right. Anybody can be a leader at some level. But to really stand out in leadership, and especially battlefield leadership or something in a high-performing universe like the SEAL teams, Mark Schaefer is second to none. One of the best leaders. He was my guest speaker at my retirement. Was honored to have him. Just if you ever get to meet him, hopefully I'll connect you to. And he'd be a great podcast. Obviously not while he's active duty. He may be aspiring for higher things. And this is the guy, by the way, Miles, who told me, and I hope I'm going to send this to Mark when it's done. He told me one of his goals was he wanted to be a CEO of a company at the age of 50. Well, he's older than me by a few years and past that. Didn't achieve that, but I think putting on a second star as a SEAL, running a special operations command is pretty damn good, right?
100%. And I gotta add a point there. The CEO of the brand called you, so he's running his own brand. Amen to that.
Right. In a way, he missed nothing. Right. He missed some arbitrary label, but the reality is, it's much. He's in a much more powerful and just a more fitting role for an individual like that. That was his calling, right? So yeah, phenomenal. So that's who I am. Who I am today is now 21 years retired in 2017. Like I said, those years were mostly combat. I mean, you couldn't, if you were a young SEAL, 20 something years old with a bachelor's degree, enlisting in the Navy back in 1996, 97, and then going through BUDS, you couldn't have planned, and you were looking for combat in a secondary decade where really SEAL teams were underutilized, under the Army at that time. I don't know if you know that. So we called ourselves Purple. And really,
what does that mean?
So Purple's Army. It's soft. So green and blue, purple, right? So Navy blue, Army green. Special Operations Forces, started back, in Desert One. After that fiasco, then SOCOM was developed. The Special Operations Command, first time they umbrellaed Special Forces, but it always was run 80s, 90s by Army, right? So we worked for Army Brigadier Generals, former Green Berets, former Delta guys. They ran the show. And it wasn't until after 9/11 that senior SEALs started to work their way in when we proved our worth. We got spread thin through multiple combat zones all at once, 2001, 2003. And then we started to prove our worth, and the rest is history. So now they alternate command. The commander of SOCOM will be a 4-star general, or admiral, even Air Force is in the mix now. So we're rotating Special Operations, Special Forces leadership throughout SOCOM and all its commands. So yeah, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better time as a young 22-year-old kid full of testosterone, hoping to go into the Navy, because my first deployment, and a lot of people forget this, was 1999. So I went through, like you mentioned in the beginning, I went through BUDS class 214. Never forget that. It was 13, one of 13 originals in that class.
Started
150. We ended up graduating 35-ish guys from that class. But yeah, there was 13 original guys that made it through. I was one of the idiots that was smart enough to hide my injuries and then dumb enough to push through. And so, I made it through with that class right through, went to SEAL Team 8 on the East Coast and deployed to Brindisi, Italy right away. We were supposed to do what they call a UCOM. So that's a European command tour. Split on the East Coast. Typically the East Coast we were regionalized pre 9/11, right? SEAL teams on the East Coast, all the even numbers, odd numbers on the West Coast. Those guys covered mainly the Middle East and Southeast Asia. East Coast would be Europe, all the winter warfare stuff. And then, so Bosnia broke out, Kosovo under Bill Clinton. So we started bombing there. So we went right from what was supposed to be a nice European vacation, working with all the Norwegian SOF and Swedish and the Kampfschwimmers in Germany, the Commando Hubert in France. Like that's the type of deployment I expected. Instead, we got diverted. We never even unpacked our stuff in Germany. There was a commander at the forward deployed Naval Special Warfare Unit 2 in Stuttgart, Germany, where we ended up. The commander was Sean Pybus, who kind of a key figure. And we could talk about the male role models I've had in my lifetime. Yeah. But Sean Pybus was the commander, ended up being, in charge of Warcom at the end of the day. And I believe the deputy over at SOCOM at one point. I may be wrong about that, but phenomenal career, 3-star admiral. Yeah, but he was the commander at the time. He ended up signing my recommendation letter to Officer Candidate School, which is how I ended up commissioned. So he was the first. And so thanks to him. But he was there. He met us for the first time I met him in person. He met us right there at the command. All our pallets were packed up and we just arrived. Here we are. And he says, repack it. Like, Don't undo the pallets. We're going on a C-17 right over to Brindisi, Italy, and then gave a brief to our senior leadership about what was going on, state of affairs. We were We were 7 hours away from H-hour for the bombing in Kosovo. And so we redeployed to Brindisi, Italy, and started going in back and forth into Tuzla and into Kosovo, and started conducting missions there. So that was my first deployment. So combat mission. There was no engaging gunfire from at least our platoon, but we were involved in operations, laser designating targets. So that was my first. And then who knew 2 years later, in between there, I just wanted to stay deployed. So I did another deployment. I never came home. We had unfortunately lost a communicator. I was a radioman as an enlisted guy, so I carried the radios. I decided, I got a phone call while I was on deployment, say, hey, we lost a guy in training accident off the coast of Oceania in Virginia, and it's a comm guy, which is a critical skill for a platoon to have as a communicator. And so you can't replace those really quick. And so I said, yep, I'm young, single, no, really love the team already. And I'll stay. So I stayed over deployment, and then 9/11 happened, and the rest is history. Like, it just never stopped. And I was in one of the photos I sent you is a zoomed in version, black hat. That's November 2001 in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah, went in with General Mattis, and so that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But my favorite Marine, and so went in General Mattis in 01. There we were running and gunning. Couldn't even spell the word Afghanistan when I landed, and we landed in southern Afghanistan, Camp Rhino. There's a book written about that. And after that I went back to Bosnia, did some really cool clandestine, I'm gonna curse here, but real-time SEAL shit, right? And so I was in Bosnia in a flat in the old Sarajevo, chasing after war criminals, which was James Bond type shit. Like, it was. I had some cool stories, like stories I've forgotten. But now that, I'm retelling them to you, I can see the detail. I watched the invasion of Iraq from my flat in Sarajevo, running a cell of 7 guys, and watched the invasion of Iraq back in 2003. And then I went to Iraq multiple times. And so, in 05, I was in Iraq, 2011. So it never ended. It was just constant op tempo. Really took time. The break I had was in 09, going to Naval Postgraduate School. And then back to Iraq in 2011, where Naval Postgrad School, oddly enough, is where I met Mark Schaefer. So him and I were classmates, cohorts. We were on the same team doing our thesis together and working projects together. And Mark was integral in restarting the cycling team. So I don't know if your former guest, Bill, was a cyclist, but if that team is still going, we restarted. It was kind of a thing to do. So we started a cycling team out there in Naval Postgrad School. But that was 09. But so I left to go to Iraq. He leaves to go back to Damneck, Team 6. That's when he took over Gold Squadron. He was the CO in charge of Gold Squadron out there when Extortion 17 happened on August 6, 2011. So both those tragedies, 05, where I lost some former teammates of mine, and 2011, the odd part was I was standing in Baghdad for both of those when they happened. Just very strange to be in the same spot, watching the same thing, getting the same information. So tragedy. So that's where he ended up after post-grad school. And I know that weighs heavy on him to this day. But that, that's something for him to talk about, obviously. But so that was it. And then came out of there, was operations officer at our boat team. And I knew that after my last deployment to Iraq, that this was it. I had just had my son when I deployed to Iraq for the final time. Yes. And he was 7 weeks old. And when I deployed, man, I can't tell you how hard that was. So those little things in life that really cause a massive change in the way you look at everything, from your history up to the point that you're at. It was really hard to do. And that was an indefinite deployment. So that was one of the first times I went on deployment without really a time, 6 months. This is going to be a 6-month pump, 8-month pump. We were indefinite, and I kind of got stuck there. That's a whole story in and of itself. But I made my way home by December, before Christmas, and grabbed my son and said, I don't think I want to deploy again in a combat zone. Like, I think I'm done. And I was, and I kind of played it out. I was at 15 years at that point, you know?
Wow.
And so you're not leaving the Navy. So they tried to get me for one more deployment. I ended up falling off the paper, but I ended up at the command. So if you look at my coin, I have a personal coin, or you look at my awards in the other studio in Texas, you'll see it makes a perfect circle, because I started at BUDS, which is Naval Special Warfare Center. And I ended at BUDS. None of it planned, by the way. Not one single bit of that was planned, but that's just 21 years later. I ended up as the operations officer under Schaefer, running the command that I started at. It was kind of surreal. It was kind of awesome having my retirement ceremony on the grinder, which doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. They tore it up. Yeah, BUDS had a facelift right after I worked on the project. We always thought that they were going to keep the original grinder that you see on YouTube, and all the classes that got followed. That original grinder was Frogman Legend, and they tore it up, sadly. So there's a new grinder. But I had my retirement ceremony on the original grinder. It was kind of surreal. I couldn't keep my eyes from watering the entire time. So
of course,
it was great. Yeah. So that's how it ended, and got out and worked on Wall Street for 7 years. And
I'm sorry to hear that. No, I get
it. Great money, great paycheck. Awful world to be in. Thankless. Don't turn your back on Wall Street is what they say. Different jungle, fast paced, lived my life in an airplane. And then that came to an end last August. And then I found ZeroEyes through Pipeline. So talk about, I tried to make the Wall Street job a purposeful one, because it's so, you hear it over and over again. You got to have purpose, especially for the veterans, right? You got to have purpose in what you do. That's true, especially when your identity is so long, like 21 years as a SEAL. I tried to find purpose, and I wouldn't take a job unless I could find. I really could not see myself in anything that I could not find some kind of purpose. And so I looked at it this way. So I raised money for pension funds, right? When I was in Wall Street, we were an alternative investment firm. And before I took the job, I said, how can I make that purposeful without, showing the egoistic, selfish side of me, which was, wow, I'm making more money than most SEALs when they get out, right? That's not what it's about. But at the time, this is why I never took time off, which was a huge mistake. All the male mentors in my life, which were all senior SEALs for the most part, all said to me, we're talking about captains, admirals, all said, you got to take time off. When you retire after 21, you take 6 months off, do nothing. Nope. Got an opportunity, looked at it and go, drive right in, typical SEAL mentality. Well, that was a mistake. But I ignored some good advice. And if anybody's listening that's getting ready to retire, take time off, especially if you have a family. Go on vacation. You earned it. And so, that's what I did. And then I found these guys. So the purpose I found was, look, I am raising money for people that were promised a pension, right? So I'm a pensioner, a recipient, for the rest of my life. So I appreciate that. And I just took that and I said, that's my mission. These people, a lot of union clients. So the unions are big. I mean, huge parallels too between veterans and the way the union runs their show, right? A lot of camaraderie, a lot of brotherhood. I really liked working with the unions. So I looked at it and I said, some 50, 60-year-old guy that's been an electrician or a pipe fitter or cement mason his whole life. And I said, that guy was made a promise. He's got to have a pension. And so I'm going to take this job, raise money, and hopefully my company provides a return, right? Those investment guys came up with a good thesis and we execute. And that's how I found purpose. And so that actually lasted for a little while, kind of wore off, but it wasn't true.
Really interesting to hear you say that, because purpose, your application of it seems very linear. Like my work, my avocation's got to provide that purpose, my vocation, but maybe it's the avocation. Maybe it's the extracurricular that you're doing at the same time. But I sort of digress. I'm tracking with you. So keep flowing, and then I'm going to hit you with a couple questions.
Yeah. No, I'm still answering your first question.
No, this is great. Let it roll.
Part two. So that's yeah, that's what I did. And then that kind of wore off. And then I really found true purpose with ZeroEyes. So get into ZeroEyes. So company, it's a AI weapons detection company. Goes on already existing camera infrastructure. This company was started by 4 former SEALs who were in at the same time I wasn't familiar with them. We were on the same coast at the same time, heard the names. And actually one of them I worked at Buds with at the tail end. But these guys started this company based off of real meaning and real purpose. And it was shortly after the Parkland shooting in Florida, where one of the co-founders, Michael Hiff, he brought his daughter to school on the East Coast, and they had their 110th lockdown drill, since the shooting. And I could talk about lockdown drills and those protocols all day long. They really don't do any good for the kids. It's really disruptive to the school environment. They get anxiety from it. They're too young to deal with or to understand what the purpose is, but it's great for the staff, right? Or they think it is. But really, they get desensitized to these lockdowns, and that's exactly what happened in Parkland. And we can talk about that in detail. But so he walked up to the school with his daughter, and as he was walking up, he saw cameras, right? Everybody has them. Everybody invests a ton of money in these cameras, and there's some great brands out there. And he said to the school, "What are you doing with the cameras?" They said, standard answer from most people I talk to these days as well, still today in 2026. Nothing really. We don't have anybody monitoring them. They record at night, so we can see who broke into a car last night, or we can see who robbed, or got in a fight. But they're really reactive. And so the whole mission was born. Let's make these cameras proactive. Let's get them put to work, which makes complete sense, right? Because the cameras aren't cheap. Let's get them put to work. And they came up with ZeroEyes, AI brandished gun detection. And
that's a software. That's an application.
That is a software that goes on already existing cameras. So we don't sell cameras. We don't do that. We just make sure that you meet our minimum requirement, which is usually just an IP camera, 720p minimum. And then we can platform on your infrastructure. And we bring a device and it's software. The difference is, and this is an AI conversation here, the difference between us and anybody else in the space or any of these camera companies that do the analytics or they advertise all this stuff that these cameras can do, we have a human in the loop. And it's in the ZeroEyes Operations Center. We call it the ZOC. So we run this thing, and because it was started by team guys, we run this thing like a military operation. It looks like a tactical operations center up in Philly. No kidding. There's a skiff door up there. You open it up, 25, 35 seats for guys and girls who have to be former law enforcement, have to be former military to work in there. Reason being, they are trained in gun detection. They are the human in the loop within 3 to 5 seconds when they get a detection photo from the analytic that they can determine whether it's a threat or it's not a threat. And the average time to do that is about 3 to 5 seconds, which is pretty damn quick. And once they do, we're the ones that pick up they're all 911 correspondents trained. They pick up the phone and call 911, and they pick up the phone and call the client. We then become the eyes and ears for the responding force, whether it be, the first responders of all kinds. We do not do any tactical ground decision-making. That's not our job. We don't lock down schools. We are there to provide information, accurate description of the shooter, location of the camera that they're under. And so we can walk them in and time. So the tagline is save time, save lives.
Okay, hold up. Freeze for a second.
Yep.
Why is this not mandatory in
got the
all elementary schools nationwide? What politician is not stepping up to take some taxpayer dollars and save our children?
That is my mission right now. This is why Sam Alimo, who's also one of the co-founders, put me on the podcast mission as well. Getting the word out. You are dead on. That is the same reaction that I had on the previous podcast that I did. Exactly the same wording. This should be mandatory. That's how I came on to work and cover the state of Texas. I said the first thing I saw when I saw the tech up in Philly, I go, why is this not in every school, at a minimum, in every school system in America?
Or to that point, on every school bus as well.
So we do buses as well. Same thing, right?
Amen.
It just, while they
Protect their children.
While they sit, these quote unquote elected representatives of the population sit on Capitol Hill every time there's a shooting or some kind of mass event which involves weapons. They sit there and they start this they restart this debate on gun control. Meanwhile, they get nothing done. It's been decade after decade. It's just mouthpiece after mouthpiece standing in DC saying, we're going to, let's do this, that. No meaningful gun laws have come out. Everybody knows that. But in the meantime, we're spending billions of dollars on other crap where if the federal government just provided funding to these school systems who have no funding for safety and security, and it's not a lot of money per school to get 25, 50 cameras up and running with ZeroEyes at a minimum. We got to get the word out. We have a government team called ZEGS, the ZeroEyes Government Solutions Team, run by another team guy. So there's quite a few team guys in this operation, as you can imagine. And they're constantly rallying. You'll see them on LinkedIn if you follow ZeroEyes, constantly on Capitol Hill, trying to get federal dollars. But you got to play the lobby game, and you know how that goes. So you
yes
get into
and
the
no.
frustration of that.
Yeah, forget about the gun control conversation. Forget about whether you're pro or con. It really doesn't matter at this moment. All we're talking about is safety and security for a community. And you're 100%. Starting the community with the children. And it could go to a geriatric center, or it could go to a private university in Rhode Island, or it can go to a hospital, or, 15,000 nurses are striking in Manhattan because of an issue with a patient. Yeah. We're talking about awareness, we're talking about education, and we're talking about information so that people can make better decisions. You're not left, you're not right, but you're providing a solution, as I understand it, that no one else has.
Right. That's exactly right.
I want to get into that much deeper with you, because what you're doing there is remarkable. When you talk about a purpose, I'm a big fan of profit is an outcrop of purpose. And when profit replaces purpose, then you get all messed up.
Nailed it.
And ZeroEyes is knocking that out of the park. I don't know a ton about your world, but I do know a little bit about AI, and I know a whole lot as a father of what I do and don't want for my children and my community. And I don't want to see any other neighborhood or community devastated because someone went short on a panic button, which is basically what you're offering.
Right.
Simple terms. Amen. Yep. Way to be, man. Good, and good for ZeroEyes for bringing you on.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And
they better give you a raise,
struggle.
Man.
I mean, that's not, yeah, no, I make my own money. So that's not to say that schools are the only beneficiary, because after COVID, during COVID, when schools were shut down, ZeroEyes had to innovate, had to transition, right? How we react. In a lot of ways, you got to look at some good that came out of COVID, right? So they had to transition, and they did, and realized this is meaningful in any vertical that's out there, right? Commercial real estate, right?
It could be a football game. It could be a stadium. It could be event participation. Yep. So
look at what happened in New York, in Manhattan just recently. Guy walked across an open courtyard under cameras with a, no kidding, AR, like it actually happened in real world, and then shot somebody in the Blackstone building.
And let's not forget, there was a competitor of yours out there that mistaken a Dorito bag for a weapon, which caused a whole nother series of misconnects. But please.
A case for the human in the loop, which is why we are which is why we are the better solution, hands down. And nobody can do it at scale. We're the only ones doing it at scale with the culture that we have. The military and law enforcement culture is so critical. They lined it. They did it just right. So they made this company just right. And so, getting the word out.
I'm in Maryland, Governor. I hope you're listening to this, and you'll find some federal funding to make this happen. Whether you're doing it when you're rebuilding the bridge to make sure our new bridge is safe, or you're doing it for our city, which is overrun with crime right now, one way or another. I hope it happens. But JJ, to our point, who are you becoming? You're becoming an evangelist for better. The world's distracted, and you're offering with your team, or the team that you're part of, a better solution. And I applaud that, man. It's difficult to be a disruptor and an originator.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Can we pivot for a second?
Oh, 100%.
Man, I'm listening to your story, and I'm distilling this down in my mind's eye to 4 seminal moments. Dad stepping out, buds, SEALs combat, and civilian life. It's distilled, but it's pretty vanilla there. Is that fair?
Yeah. That's the 35,000 foot view. Yeah.
Okay. So Dad steps out during your formative years. How much trauma did that cause to you in retrospect?
It's all in retrospect, first of all, right? To answer your question. So none of it, growing up as a kid, and remember, so this happened, and the fact that I remember it happened is kind of a key point. So they say, right, the child psychologist experts say that kids don't really have memories before the age of 5, right? So they're learning all the motor skills and discovering the world, which for the most part is true. If you actually think about your childhood, you actually remember from before the age of 5, not a whole lot, unless it was some major moment. But I remember the day almost in color as I'm talking to you about it. The memory comes right to my head, and the Ibogaine had a lot to do with that. Now the clarity of that.
Hold up. We're going to talk about Ibogaine, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You're going to get there.
Don't let me forget that.
You're going to get there. Yeah, famous Ibogaine treatment. But
thank you.
Vivid memory of him leaving. I was playing with pots and pans. I remember sitting on my bed, and it was, like I said, my childhood there was no conflict between mom and dad. There was just lack of love, lack of connection, lack of presence. And so he left. He said, I'm leaving. I don't know when I'll be back. I remember the words. I'm leaving. I'm not sure when I'll be back. Patted me on the back, walked out of the room. It was bedtime. So, and never came back. And so that was it. And so I grew up thinking, that didn't affect me. But the effects that actually had, looking back in retrospect, led every step of the way led to where I ended up and why I ended up in the teams. Every one of those moments from that day on led to me getting to the SEAL teams. There's just no doubt about it. And I know you want to talk about. So yes, I went through the famous Ibogaine treatment, which is now becoming mainstream, or at least the word is getting out, for better or for worse. Because I think it does both sides, and we can talk about that. But my buddy Marcus Capone, who was a SEAL same time I was, early 2000s, young kid, awesome athlete, football player at University of Illinois. I think it was the Fighting Illini. Anyway, really skilled individual, and became an awesome team guy. Ended up at SEAL Team 6 and ending his career there. Him and his wife struggled when he got out. Combat, worn into the ground, pretty much tried every treatment that was out there available on the street. The VA threw medicines at him, as they usually do, and tried to medicate him. All the programs that he went through, they tried everything. They tried the brain stimulation, magnetic brain treatment, you name it, and nothing seemed to work. Marcus was just going downhill and downhill and downhill, just couldn't connect, was disconnected from his family, his children. And then they found Ibogaine, which is the most powerful psychedelic treatment available. And it comes from the Iboga plant in Africa. How they compound it, don't ask me any of the chemical questions, because I do not know. But he started this thing 2016, 17, started an organization called VETS, Veterans Seeking Solutions. And him and his wife, Amber, they took to the streets, raised money, and started putting guys. Marcus went through this and really believed in it, and says it saved his life. And
saved his life.
Yep. Said he was on the verge. And you never know, right? So you look at the guy, and I used to see him all the time, and everybody seems healthy and
we talked about
mentally
this.
prepared. And it's those ones that are the struggle is real. Like, the struggle is real. And so he went through this multiple times and said it saved his life. And I remember talking to him on the streets of Coronado, California. I think the first time we used to meet at Starbucks there on Orange Avenue. And so I think the first time was 2018, 2019. And here I am on Wall Street, suit, tie, Ferragamos, the whole nine.
Yeah.
I bump into him. He's sitting down. He's got yoga pants on, and he's got he's got the hat on. He goes, we caught up, right? It's been a while. Give him a big bear hug. I'm tiny compared to him. I'm up to his kneecap, I think. Anyway, tells me about what he's doing. Tells me how many lives it's saving. He had put quite a few people through. I think at that time they were getting grants to mostly special operators. Well, at that time was all special operators. Those were the guys that were in need. All these guys that came out of 2 decades of combat from my era. And so he was putting guys through and seeing amazing results. And then Stanford got involved, and this was a big deal. And Stanford saw the value. They started doing some metrics on it. And the metrics proved on paper that there was an actual impact, positive impact from this Ibogaine treatment. These guys,
a physical, and an emotional,
mental, emotional changes, measurable, right? Measurable with data. And so he tells me all this stuff, and he said, you should give it a shot. And I kind of chuckled, just like I just did. And I said, no, this is for guys that need it, man.
I was going to ask that. Why is he saying you should give it a shot? Were you suffering, or were you expressing to him you're just doing your thing?
It's interesting you say that, because I don't know what he saw. And believe me, now I know he can see things through a different light because of the treatment. I don't know what he saw. I don't know if he sensed. It was probably a sense, maybe.
Yeah.
I said, Marcus, God, I make a ton of money. Like, I'm on Wall Street, happy as a clam. I live in I have a house in Texas. I come back, see my kids.
Chilling, I'm living.
Yeah. Just trying to, all the bullshit that comes out of your mouth when you're just faking it. And
he's looking at you going, you're empty.
Maybe he sensed it. I thought I believed it, what I was saying to him at the time.
Okay.
So that was it. Wrapped up coffee. I said, yeah, let me know. Keep me in touch. He was going to start some other side project, a fund for it, and a fund for Ibogaine and psychedelic research and medicine. And I was all into that. I said, send me the slide deck, see if I can help you out, raise some money for that. And fast forward 2022, I'd seen him in between there a couple times, same thing, having coffee. But in 2022, he sat down, and I don't know what it was. Miles, you're going to ask me the question. I don't know. Like, I don't have an answer already. I'm prepping you. I don't know what it was. I don't know what caused it. I started dating a few years after I separated, just to get back, try to get a relationship going. But I was in and out of relationships, and these were good. These were good women that I was dating, fine people, but I just could not maintain relationships. There was an issues going on with that.
The long-term connection.
The connection, there was no connection, like, just not genuine connection. And so I felt like, wow, I wonder if I could connect more with my kid. Like, if that's an issue with the kids too. And you start questioning everything. Anyway, I sat down with him, and like I said, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was some of that, and nothing was working. And, I had everything else, but I was missing connection. And so I said to him, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a try. How do I sign up for the Ibogaine?
Wow.
Right? Not sitting there contemplating suicide on a daily basis, not loaded gun in the thing, none of that. It never really surfaced in my head. But there's this inexplicable feeling that you get as an anxious vet, losing, coming out of the teams that had been 6 years out of the teams as well. And so you're starting to get detached from that and realizing that identity model that you lived doesn't really apply anymore. After 6 years being out of the teams, the attributes that you have, the high performer, all the stuff that corporate America wants, you have. You have exactly what they want. They want to grab it and take a hold of it. But the stuff you need to be happy and live your life, you're missing. And it's just not there. And so that's one of the reasons, I guess. It's not the reason, but whatever prompted me to say, hey, I'll give it a try. Because I'm not big on drugs. I was a Boy Scout until the age of 19, 20. I had my first beer when I went to Ohio State, when I went to college. No kidding. I wasn't a drinker, didn't sneak drink, never touched alcohol. I was a Boy Scout, like bodybuilding and in 8th grade, 9th grade, all that stuff. And so I truly was, never did any of that stuff, and didn't believe that. I always believed the body was a temple until I got to college, and then the SEAL teams destroyed that. But you're just out. You're out. You go out with the boys, and that's how you vent. You go out to the bar and you drink alcohol. And like I tell all people, most team guys that you see that have drinking problem, they're not alcoholics. They're masking. They're masking what's missing in their lives. And this all dovetails into when I was talking about 4 years old, the events that led up, they are masking some kind of childhood trauma.
Well, that was my question. So
trauma.
the others that have joined you on the Ibogaine journey as part of a self-discovery, self-reflection, is it all landing on the same point of childhood trauma more so than combat trauma?
So my take on it after discussion and just talking to the guys and knowing the guys that have gone through some of this treatment and knowing team guys is that yes, it's not the combat. And you learn that when you do an Ibogaine journey, because you go in thinking one thing and you come out with a whole nother perspective. It wasn't until after the Ibogaine until I realized, holy shit, this has nothing to do with combat. Team guys love the combat. Yeah, we lost a lot of people. You probably experienced more death than any human being should. At least we did in those 2 decades. I mean, losing all those team guys is not a normal thing. Like you can't really have a conversation. Yeah, you can't have a pub conversation with anybody about death. You learn to compartmentalize that, which is bad in of itself, but you eventually, I think you guys deal with that in a different way because they were on the team, and it's just different. And
it's compounded trauma. It's death by 1,000 cuts. No pun intended here. I get it. I totally get it. So JJ, quick question, if I can pivot. Many of the vets are getting treatment for the PTSD and this trauma. Out of curiosity, is anyone offering it to the spouses that are there in support of the vets?
So that's the latest and great. So that happened probably simultaneously to me going 2022. They started doing that. They do now have a women's program. Yep. Because they need it just as much.
Of course. They're receiving it.
They're receiving it. I think that their experience, and I haven't talked to any of the women that have gone through yet, but I've heard about them. And I haven't talked to Marcus about this either, but I actually can't wait to talk to him about it, because I think their trauma is a little bit different than the team guys are finding. So Marcus Luttrell and his wife Melanie, Marcus Capone and his wife Amber, they learned early on. They were one of the first kind of adopters of the belief that the reason that team guys exist is because of childhood trauma. Daddy issues is what they discovered. Come to find out that is the case in a lot of these. If you watch the documentary In Waves and War that just came out on Ibogaine,
fantastic.
You'll see DJ Shipley talk about his dad, Don Shipley, who I worked with in the teams, who was in the teams on the East Coast. And by the way, that's all. Don does the fake seal. He goes after and stolen valor. That's how I spend my nights, laughing at Don Shipley. Don is hilarious.
God bless him. That's great.
But whatever relationship they had, and Don was a hard driver in the teams, make no mistake. Whatever relationship they have, and I'm not privy to any of the details, I don't know it. You can see that it all comes down. It goes back to that. And what it is, you become a people pleaser, and not in a simple way. You become a people pleaser who all of us learned really young, with fathers either present, not present, or present and violent. What we learned was, if we succeed, people are happy. Interesting. If I get good grades, people are happy. If I excel at sports, people are happy. And then you realize this is how you start. So you can take the other path, which has become a complete derelict, fall to drugs and alcohol and everything in between, and go that route. Or you can go the route that most of the team guys picked, which was, wow, I can use my ability, my God-given human strength and human ability to please people. Interesting. I'm going to start doing that, and it works. And then you become, but it masks all the trauma. See, you end up putting so much pressure on yourself to excel and achieve, because that's how you were brought into this world, thinking you could make it in life. In the reality, and you forget your present self, and you look to the future of what is going to happen next. What can I achieve next? How can I overachieve? How can I blow people's minds away? And that you're living in this over here in this future that you never really catch up to. It's impossible.
And do you think, strange question, Do you think the selection officers involved with buds are aware of this and are looking for people that
No, they're not looking for it. The people find the program. I tell them all the time, you can look on YouTube, all these kids going to buds. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Netscape. I didn't know anything about the teams.
I got you.
An hour and a half
I understand.
for a web page to load back in the day, but a picture of the seal on Netscape. I'll never forget. I'll never forget. And there was all rumor and lore and some of the stories I could tell you. It was always, oh, I know my cousin knows a friend of a friend whose cousin was a SEAL. You're like, what? That's like 18 removed. And then the stories you hear. And
like the puppy dog story.
True. Yeah, right. Nobody ever knew a SEAL. So it was, we had no, but it doesn't matter. What I'm telling you is it doesn't matter. Like now they have PT scores online. You can go on YouTube, watch these kids that went through buds, giving all this advice. Like, what a waste. People find the program. I found the program.
You found the program.
You just find it because it's the next bet. Like, how can I overachieve? Oh, look at these guys. I want to be one of these guys. And so you find your way to the program, you go through, and you're like, yeah, superhuman. What's next?
Well, here's an interesting observation. So I just had a conversation with Misha Tate, who has also gone through some psychedelic treatment related to a dissociative experience she had during her championship fight. And one of the things she shared with me was a concern that she was going to lose the fight in the dog, that as she recovered, she wouldn't have that sort of championship instinct. Has the Ibogaine treatment does it dull the senses a little bit, make you a little bit softer, bring you a little bit closer to whatever it is you were missing and consequently create a weakness?
So create a weakness? No. Create a superpower? Yes.
Talk about that.
So yeah. So she nailed it. I was scared shitless because I thought the same. I don't want to be I kind of like some of me, right? That's what I thought going. I go, I don't know. I kind of like aggression a little bit. It saves me. It like keeps me grounded. The reality is it's not going to change you or your beliefs as a person. What it does is it tears down that fake wall that's keeping you from showing emotion, right? Like emotion has been a bad thing in the male culture, or at least a perceived bad thing in the male culture for a long time. I'm not saying you want to walk around weeping and crying all freaking day, right? It's not what I'm saying, but you will. I do get emotional now. Like I had a block on emotion forever. Come to find out, because you don't want to deal with trauma. You come out being able to connect. Like I married possibly the most emotionally intelligent woman on the planet that God ever made. And so being able to connect with someone like that means that my treatment was a complete success. And by the way, it's not a one and done where you're fixed. You're actually, now you're going to have to deal, you go through with it. Now you're aware how much of a fuck up you've been, for lack of a better word. Now you're aware. And so now you get someone like my wife, she's calling me on it. Like you will get called on it. You'll stop in your tracks and you'll the emotion, Miles, that comes out when you know that you've been stubborn or said something that was condescending or something that was wrong. You stop in your tracks. There's no way around it. You're not hiding anymore. And all of a sudden the emotion comes out and you feel the past trauma. Like you feel it. Where did this come from? And then you realize you were not able to do that before Ibogaine broke down those walls, right? Enabling you to see, because the journey itself is amazing. So you basically come out with a superpower, being able to finish the rest of your days in connection, which I mentioned earlier, like 3 times in 3 different ways, is much better than living in a materialistic world where you're masking things. Or because materialism, cars and Land Rovers and Ferragamos, like that's just as bad as alcohol, marijuana use, all the stuff there's all masking tools, right? For stuff that you're not facing, or that you can't deal with. They're all ways to tell you that you're okay. And they're false idols.
Ultra marathon running, high rocks to an extreme. It's anything you take to an extreme. I understand that. And society deems some things productive and society deems other things non-productive. And it comes down to something you said earlier, which is my words, not yours, but what I'm taking is a self-awareness that you gain, that self-understanding, and then an ability to address things so that you can have that connection that you didn't have. The one thing that I keep coming back to, which is on your website, and it was an original comment you made about leadership. Is it innate or is it taught? And I'm listening to you say leadership's innate, but I'm saying Ibogaine is a teacher. So does that make you think any differently about leadership being innate or taught?
No, I don't. I think that, yeah, Ibogaine's, it's not so much as a teacher, it's a revealer. Right?
A revealer.
It's a revealer. So it reveals. I can tell you the memories that the images and visions I had during that rough 18-hour ride on Ibogaine, which is one night.
Hold on. So you take it and you're on an 18-hour journey.
Some people 13, some people 18. So yeah, it's a long, long trip.
And while you're in it, are you aware, like cognitive of everything going on around you?
Completely aware. You're immobilized. You're basically just paralyzed. You don't even realize it because you're not even thinking about your in-body experience. You're just laying on a mattress.
Can you physically move arms and legs, or you
cannot? You can't even,
because you're exhausted, or because you have no motor skills?
Paralyzes you. Yep, no motor skills. Paralyzed.
So this is a
you
true
roll over to
spiritual
throw
journey.
Up, I guess I did not throw up.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, I was one of the ones that didn't, because I was so immersed into the experience. Some guys block it. Some guys just don't open up, have struggle with it, or for whatever other reason. There's a lot of vomiting that goes on with some guys.
Is there negativity involved? Is there terror or fear or horror that's involved?
Everybody has their own journey. So yes, there's some people that, they face it, and that's what I expected. I expected this is going to be all about combat during deployments.
That's why I asked that.
0.0 combat related stuff. The first memories I had were toys. This is going to sound funny. Toys. I saw crystal clear TV images, by the way, of toys I had when I was a kid. Toys like 3 years old, not 10 years old. Things I would have never, if you and I we could talk for 100 days straight about my childhood, would have never remembered that I even owned, came out of the psyche and were visible in front of me. And
what do you make of that?
I was blown away.
What does that mean?
So how do I interpret that?
Yes.
So it takes a while, right? This is why it's not just the trip. You have to actually analyze. And that was 2022. It's 2026 now. I'm still remembering visions and then interpreting them today. And it's like that's what that could possibly means. And it all makes sense when you figure it out. You feel that feeling of like you just solved a complex problem. So it's still, you're doing the work forever. But that particular image, or those images that I saw, all it does is tie it right back to, I had issues. These are the things that I went to when I didn't have anybody connecting with me. I connected with toys. I spent my time with these things. You could interpret it that way, right? And so these were the things that were valued to me as a child because my dad wasn't out playing catch with me or something like that.
Wow.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to pivot. Same topic. What does one do that doesn't have access to this, that's struggling, or that may be aware that they're going through some difficulties and they want to work on this level of self-improvement? Someone that's had repeated trauma, not combat, but what we're talking about is identity or issues with connectivity, and they don't want to revert to drugs, alcohol, and extreme sports.
So my wife is better equipped to answer this question for you, but having watched her, because she's been through a hellish life herself, raising 4 girls, the way she raised these girls is mind-blowing. Like I said, they're all 18 plus as of yesterday, and they're all just great kids. And they have their own traumas from lack of father as well, right? But she had to do the work. So this is the answer to your question. she did the work. Like, the work is not easy. She wrote a book. It's called The Shift. She finished it last year, posted it on Amazon.
SHIFT?
The Shift. Yep.
Oh, I thought you said the shit. And I'm like, what?
Oh, no. She is the shit, but the shift.
I know, right? Okay.
Yeah. It's called The Shift. Like, she's such an overachiever. Like, she's an overachiever. But she's also considered, we've had this conversation more than once in the last 3 months. She's like, I've done the work. She knows she's done the work, and she has. I used her book. We got in a tiff. Let's just call it a little tiff, not too long ago. And I promised her I'd read the book anyway. But it's not it's an exercise. It's actually a journal to do the work. This is the beginning. This was a culmination of her years of taking notes and being a perfectionist, and she finally got it out. And I was so proud of her. And we're going to post it. We'll talk about it on the Fourth Phase podcast. But you can buy it on Amazon. She wouldn't talk to me, actually. And she said, I'm not going to talk to you until you go read the book and do the exercise. Just go up to page. She knew the page number by heart. She goes, just go up to page 15, do those exercises. And I reluctantly went into my office, closed the door, opened up The Shift, actually read it. I got my emotion aside, started to read it. And kind of just like the Ibogaine, I started writing in the journal. I actually took the pen, started writing. I go, oh my God, this is actually working. Oh, and this is also what I did. And I came out of there in tears. Came out of my office in tears. And I'm actually I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because I gave her the book. She opened it up. She didn't read what I wrote, but she didn't need to. It's not the point. She
did the work.
Saw that I did the exercise, and I said to her, I was wrong. Whatever the situation, I can't remember what it was, but I was wrong about this. I shouldn't have reacted that way. This is why I did it. This is where it comes from. She started crying. And she was like over the moon that I had actually done it. But there's the answer to your question. You've got to do work like that. Not just, I think talk therapy is great if you know where you're at in life. Like, for me, talk therapy is engaging because I've been through a journey. So Ibogaine is what Marcus and Amber say, and what I think is true. Ibogaine is like 4,000 therapy sessions in one trip.
Wow.
Yeah. Some kind of metric like that. And so I can go into a therapist for today and actually engage on a level that you need to be on to get anything from it. You can't go into talk therapy hoping they solve your problems without any knowledge of what's causing your problem. Right. So it's not going to work. It's just nothing against talk therapists, but they know that too. Like, if you're just going in there looking for them to point you in life's direction, it's the wrong answer. And so you got to do, if you don't want to do, I'm an anti-drug guy. I didn't want to do the drug, like psychedelic, like mushrooms, like LSD. Like, I don't want to do any of that stuff, but I'm telling you right now, it's something you don't want to do twice. You do not want to do it twice. This is not an addictive thing. Like, they say it may call you back. Yeah, they say it may call you back, but I'll tell you, it's 4 years now, and I still remember. And Marcus does it like once a year. I don't know how he did. That's why he's probably wearing yoga pants and a shaman's hat. But it's nothing you want to do twice. I would recommend it. I mean, if people are really, it's not for everybody either, though. That's what I was worried about when I mentioned to you, there's pluses and minuses to this treatment. And God bless them. You've got to get bigger to raise money, to get awareness, to run that organization, which is super valuable. But the downside is you're going to mainstream this thing with the Waves and War documentary, and then everybody under the sun is going to want to do it who doesn't. You go into that journey without a purpose, and you don't really have anything to deal with. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun.
No, but I think there's an element of a spiritual journey. Maybe the indigenous people were playing around with similar things for a very long time. And what we're talking about is more specific and focused and applied. I appreciate the abuse. I think you called it mission creep on our first call.
Yeah,
it sounds like this would be the mission creep there. I remember you saying that.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing that I take away from this conversation for those that may be listening that don't have access to this, that are going through tough times, is your connection with your wife. And not that a wife or a husband or a partner is the answer, but the connectivity with a trusted individual that you can be your effortless self with.
Yeah,
And
we're social beings. For the rest of my life, you realize, shit, I just turned 51. Like, for the rest of my life, who am I going to be with? The mate that I chose. Right? So if I don't have connection, how am I going to live those days happily?
Well, that's a point that scares me. I mean, you and I were talking about AI and what that's doing to the world, and I'm a big proponent of the humanities and the je ne sais quoi that happens in that connectivity between people that's not planned. And that's a whole nother podcast about what AI is or isn't doing to the serendipity that happens in those between spots. Can I pivot for a moment off Ibogaine? Okay.
Always.
You made a comment that has been haunting me on our in-doc call, our initial call. And
my apologies.
Really, no, not in a bad way. It really got me thinking deeply on a variety of different levels. But you said, and I'm going to paraphrase, that suicide post-service are harder to hear than combat death. And I kept sitting with, why is the civilian world so much more lethal for a warrior than a war zone?
Because guys are lost. Guys get lost. They think it's identity. Everybody likes to say, "Oh, your identity's gone," or "You're struggling." But there's guys committing suicide in the military, like in the team. They were in the team. I talked about Bobby Ramirez, right? Yeah. God bless his soul. Commander of a SEAL team on the West Coast. 4 kids, wife, pinnacle of his career, prior enlisted guy. Goes home, puts a gun to his head or to his chest because he wanted to save his head. So kills himself in active duty, highly decorated 05. And so it's not.
So it's not civilian versus military. It's just the condition.
Identity. Yeah. It's not loss of identity. It's lack of finding what is causing the issues in the first place. It's lack of introspection. And I'm not saying like they're not going to sit down and look inward and meditate. It was Ibogaine. The answer for me was Ibogaine, right? And so pulling, because you think it's one thing. We all think it's one thing. Even these guys their brains are messing with them, and they're thinking it's because of all this, when really it's because of this. It's because of A, but it's really because of B, and they not even looking at the possibility that it could be B. Because they don't know B is what's been bothering them, right? And this all goes back to, I would have never known what was causing relationship breakdown or lack of empathy or lack of trust or anything like that until I did something. So
is it fair to say that it's not civilian versus military, it's your operational cadence when you're in it isn't allowing or isn't providing as much time to focus on it, the issue?
Right. Is that right? Yeah, you're staying busy, and then you're drinking, and you're masking your problem.
And then you get a moment to come off that pace, and it's not necessarily your identity, but it's just that operational cadence, and now you are you with you and only you, and to some extent.
Now you don't have those mission-driven tasks.
Yes,
keeping you occupied, and now you're alone with your own thoughts.
So that then takes me on 2 different planes. One plane is, the co-founder of ZeroEyes, Sam, is a Stoic, and he's big into the meditations as such. You and I have discussed that.
Yep.
If more guys, while they were in the teams, became more of a Stoic, would that have made any type of a difference?
I think yes. I'm no expert on Stoicism, like Billy.
This is a mental model, how to approach different problem sets. Okay.
Right.
Because it's an ancient philosophy, but it's controlling how you influence and apply pressures, and you respond to them. So I appreciate that.
So
that then takes me to.
I'm sorry. What Stoicism would do in a case like that, in a leadership capacity, would take your ego out of the decision making, out of the risk making, out of the decision making. You're literally leaving that ego and emotion off to the side, making a way, way more stable decision on risk versus reward, which saves lives at the end of the day.
Okay.
Especially in the SEAL teams.
And stoicism, like lifting weights, it's an exercise. You have to adapt to it, and you have to periodize against it and
Hard.
build up for it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's time. It's a learned skill. I appreciate that. So then that takes me down a different path on the same topic, and that is something you said to me that was equally as arresting, that has been staying with me. You said the military is a pump, not a filter. How does that apply to the warrior that's becoming a civilian and it's struggling?
So the military, in all its goodness, exists for its own purpose. And once your place in that purpose has come to its useful end, they pump you right out of the military and leave you with nothing. Now, they'll come back, somebody from DOD, Department of War now, DOW, would come back and argue, we have all these resources. Go to the website. Go to the website. Go to the VA website. Yeah, that's great. 5,000 links and job fairs and stuff. So the military pumps you out and doesn't give you a Rolodex. I think we talked about this in the pre-call. So there's SEALs. I'll just speak of my community. They're probably in every branch that you can think of, but there's SEALs that are millionaires. I've been told that there's a couple SEAL billionaires out there that were at least at one point team guys at some point. You don't get a Rolodex of contacts to get out and mentor you. Now, there's organizations that have since popped up. We talked about the Navy SEAL Foundation, the SEAL Family Foundation, SEAL Future Fund, or now the SEAL Future Foundation, all kinds of benevolent organizations that are outside the military that have popped up to try to help mentor some of these people since 2013, 2010. That's great. They're useful. I've used a couple of them. But the military itself doesn't give you anything to go on. You retire, they pat you on the ass, you get your award, and you're on your way. You leave those front. I remember getting my retired ID, and I was in tears driving off base just because it was so different. Imagine 21 years of showing your active duty ID on it's even sadder because now you get on Delta and they announce, active duty military with an ID can now board the plane. And you're sitting there as a retiree at 21 years, and some of these kids are 5 months in the military. And you're like, what the hell? It should be retired with ID.
I never thought of that.
Oh, yes. Dude, every day I know the things I think about at airport. Wow. I just kind of shake my head. I'm like, yeah, thanks for your service. Right? It's like the old thanks
Southwest.
For your service.
I hope you're listening. Come on, let's get with the program.
Yeah, every once in a while, though, I'll give them credit. There is a gate agent at Delta. I was a Delta preference guy. Now Southwest, but every now and then there is that person that either served, they must have served, or they're just very aware, and they're like active duty and retired military with ID. And that happens rare. It's rare. It's mostly active duty, and I just kind of stand there. But the military pumps you out. They don't provide you the resources that you need, especially the valuable ones in the SEAL teams. So many team guys get out and they're lost. They just have no direction. Lots of skills they can't even translate from military lexicon or military jargon. Because at the end of the day, my transition story for you is most of these things are just lexicon when they get out, and they confuse you. Like finance likes to confuse you with their own finance language. Yeah, no, this is true. It's the truth. And the reality is the skills are the friggin' same. I try to mentor guys doing this too, and I'm like, don't be fooled by you can chat GPT their lexicon and
you can crack the code.
Game. Yeah, once they don't have their own language is the magic sauce. And once you learn those things, you're not gonna be doing quantum physics when you get there. Unless you're creating
and us.
Yeah. Come on. And most of it,
and the skills are more than applicable. It's just finding the right place and the right time.
Yeah.
This is such a contradiction to me, and for this reason, you wouldn't send your child to a university that's got a high attrition rate or an inability to find a job when they get done their education. I don't want my child going into special warfare if when they get done, they're coming out broken and there's no one to pick them up. And I would think the greatest service would be to have the alumni kicking ass and having massive success. And we see every now and then a few of them pop through with their own programs, sensationalizing this and that. But it's the minority, not the majority. And this should be plural, not singular in its effort. And I think for them to, if they put as much time into creative storytelling in Hollywood on the front end to improve enlistment as they do in placement post service, I think that their enrollment would be even higher.
Sure.
It's surprising to me.
Yeah, no, value added. I always thought maybe 5 years before I even got out, I go, well, this would be great. A bunch of team guys will get out together. No reason not to start a company, whatever company, X widgets or X skills, security, cyber, whatever. Team guys would make I always thought team guys would make a great boardroom. They could just you throw 6 team guys that are highly functional into a room and start whiteboarding stuff and throwing it up and coming up with great ideas that they would run a company. And it's the exact opposite when I got out. Team guys,
interesting.
They're so type A that they get out and I'm going to prove my worth here or prove my worth. It's like I told you earlier, it's that never ending search to prove that, you can do it on your own, which comes from
remarkable
childhood trauma, right? And so they don't.
It's a drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's innate. I understand that for sure.
Yep.
JJ, what question or topic have we not touched on that you want to communicate?
I'd like to, let's go back to AI. Like I want to, because I want to voice I'm in the world now. My wife works for a tech company too. I want to know what your thoughts are. You've talked to a lot of people along the way. AI is, how much does it scare you? Let me ask you, let me podcast host. How much are you nervous about artificial intelligence today? And what is it that you're worried about?
I wouldn't say I'm worried, and I wouldn't say I'm scared. I'd say I'm very curious, and it's the uncertainty of what's next and where this is going. And it's the reality that we're not in a singular conversation. It's not like the World Wide Web where the first one to win the race then becomes adopted globally. I think there are going to be multiple AIs from multiple allies and adversaries that are vibrant and strong and ferocious all at the same time. And so that by itself freezes me like, shit, something bad could really happen really quickly, and I don't know what. And that comes from the access of information, nefarious information to bad actors. That worries me. I have a curiosity about how are we going to police or patrol or govern that when we can't even take care of gun control and getting ZeroEyes in the right schools at the right time. So that bothers me. I have a community of friends that are dystopian. They absolutely believe that, this is the end. It's the end of days. That this is a reckoning, unlike the Industrial Revolution, unlike e-commerce and direct to consumer to that marketplace. I come from. I'm an optimist, mistakenly so, perhaps, or foolishly so. But I'm an eternal optimist, so I celebrate it. What I'm able to learn and accomplish on my own with no help is remarkable. Things that I couldn't do, I can look up now and like, oh my God, I can operate the 4K camera and learn Riverside in 2 minutes and do these things I could never do on my own and have to get someone to help me. So I'm excited about it. The thing that keeps me up at night is really 2 things. Displacement. AI will increase efficiency and try to reduce risk. And with that will come loss of employment and purpose for many people. And it's not a graduation to what's next. I no longer make horse saddles because I'm the Model T's here, or I'm no longer driving a taxi because Uber showed up. This is a new age, and radiologists are being displaced today as AI reads it. And so this is happening in multiple sectors at a speed that is faster than our policymakers can keep up with. And I'm concerned what that means to people and their purpose. And so does that mean a universal basic income so that the fundamental needs are covered and then people can flourish in other aspects? Or does this create civil disobedience and massive anarchy because people are fighting for bare essentials? We can't take care of properly administer our immigration policy, regardless of what size your side of the conversation you're on, and we can't feed our homeless and take care of the underprivileged properly as a society. And regardless of whether you think we should or we shouldn't, that's not what I'm talking about. But when AI comes in and says, I can automate your warehouse, or I can automate your trucks, I don't need a truck driver, or I'm moving toward being a precog, I can run an algorithm, tell your behavior, and know what's going to happen based on probability. That then goes, now I'm really curious where this goes. And so I don't know. I make my living in the consumer products industry. I kind of joke around that I'm a consumer anthropologist. I try to predict where people are moving to create commerce and then make stuff, not more stuff, because I don't think the world needs more shit. I think it's incumbent to do better. Right? Not another pair of designer shoes, not another Garmin, GPS-enabled watch. What's next? There'll always be new innovation, which is great. But what's the world going to be like for your children, your 18-year-olds? How are they going to earn to support themselves, but how are they going to have a sense of fulfillment? Because it's the sense of fulfillment that creates the gratitude that keeps us moving collectively. And it's when the fulfillment and gratitude's not there that I think we get into a dark space where life is no longer as important in the here and now. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I've been on several cohorts in DC, trying to imagine what the next 5 and 10 years are going to look like in my sector at retail, which is melting down rapidly. I don't know. I heard a rumor that the Marine Corps no longer is promoting the sniper school for special warfare operators. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but if it's not accurate, are drones doing it? I don't know, but
well, the Marine Corps sniper school is kind of a invite for team guys outside of the loop, because we have our own sniper school in Indiana. Right. So they may have just stopped giving billets to special operations. I'm not sure. Not sure. I can find out about that, though. I'll follow up with you.
I'm just curious. But to your question, I don't stick my head in the sand and go, slow the race, slow the roll, guys. No way. Not until we control it. I go, that genie is out of the bottle and it's moving faster than any of us can keep up with. And it's like any other innovation. The public or the consumer sees what the brand wants you to see, and that's usually 2 years behind what's actually in development. That's just the way innovation, whether it's running shoes or weapons or writing utensils, whatever it is.
Completely agree. Yeah.
And that has to do with consumerism. Can I make what's out there today obsolete? Can I multiply more sales into what's next and all that nonsense? But I don't know. Like, I celebrate what you're doing with gun detection, and what can you do a level up? Can you take gun detection to stadiums? Can you take it to hospitals? So we made the world a safer place. Now what's next? After you've made it a safer place, what's next? Can you then turn this AI into spotting cancer or, doing things, avoiding famine or plague or whatever it might be? I don't know. So I get excited about it. Like, yo, bring it, man. This is great. And then I get a little curious, like, well, if it comes too quickly and I can't provide I got 2 daughters. If I can't provide for them, or at least help, I'd like to leave the place better than it was given to me. Then have I failed them? At least that's the way I think. I don't know how many people do, but how does that grab you?
Yeah, no, all true, right? I feel the same thing. The benefit is the scout warrior that's always out ahead of the pain. This is technology writ large, right? Google, right. Who'd have thought? All good. They advertised all good. I advertised that, and this is what I worry about. Advertised all good is only benefit, only upside, no downside. We all know that's not true. You're right. The nefarious players are going to get in. There's just pure evil in the world, unfortunately, that exists, and it always will. And so, how do you counter that? They're going to come follow right in. I don't know what UBI. Like, I keep hearing no problem. We'll have UBI and people have more free time. So I hear both sides. The problem is I hear both sides. So, and these are people that are in the industry, tech people. I've seen a few people speak on both sides of this recently who know what they're talking about. They run AI companies. One of them says, this is jobs will be gone by 2029. Like most
Yeah.
jobs will be gone. Okay, the doomsday, he's in the world and he's saying this. And you've got somebody else who's just as smart in another podcast I saw the other day going, oh, no, it's all good. It's actually going to create more jobs. Everybody will be on UBI, which is complete horse fairy bullshit. Okay, more abundance? More abundance. Okay, I'm okay with the jobs disappear, by the way. It's not, most people won't be, but connection. I say
do we
that,
end up
I
a
say that
society of, do we end up as haves and have-nots?
You think that the default's going to be, okay, connection, we're going to get socially back to, I think it may drive a wedge in that too, right? That's the double-edged sword. And so we may not be, people are going to have relationships with ChatGPT. It's already happening. And now on a mass scale, when you have no job and no purpose, or, your job should not always be your purpose, but you can make it, part of your purpose of that job is to serve your family, right? To provide, especially for men. Providing is a big deal. It's in our genes. It's in our DNA, taking care of everybody. What happens then? You can't. And how does UBI? I've yet to hear a good explanation on how UBI just all of a sudden comes into play. Oh, the savings from the jobs that try. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. That money's going somewhere else. And ain't coming to UBI.
We can't figure healthcare out.
Yeah.
At those fundamental levels. So I appreciate what you're saying, like, UBI. But my conversation about universal basic income has to do with the Maslowian pyramid and the hierarchy of needs, where there are fundamental requirements to live a safe life, not a comfortable life, but a safe life. And when those are gone, because we live in a society of commerce, everything has a cost. Water has a cost. Air, they haven't figured out how to bill it, but they will.
Yeah.
Profit off it, and to our earlier conversation about access, I think access is going to have a lot to do with the future. I think there'll be a select few that have access to more AI than others. Make no mistake, anyone that doesn't think the best hedge funds and the best investors in the world didn't have AI and supercomputers crunching massive amount of data to predict the outcome before the mass public is grossly mistaken. And not passing judgment, not saying anything derogatory, but access, haves and have-nots, the privilege of information will all be exasperated. And in the basement, it's going to be the bad actors that are going to do dirty, dirty stuff that shouldn't be around. And that's not a subjective conversation, like from a Western Hemisphere point of view. The privilege of life and the sanctity of living is going to be threatened because of this, unfortunately. And then hopefully the counterbalance of those doing important work to keep the place and the world safe. The only antidote is, do we pioneer or colonize somewhere else to live? Or does something cataclysmic happen that causes a change of thinking? Whether that be a religious or a spiritual or environmental event that all of a sudden galvanizes everyone to think differently. Because, JJ, everyone's at each other's throats. I've never felt it like this.
Yeah, it's bad.
I'm in my 50s. I'm not used to this. I'm used to, I grew up with a Schwinn bike, riding in the street corners, no sunscreen, chasing the good humor, man. I'm old. Happy times. But we talk about AI and I'm like, I don't tell my daughters, look it up. They are already into, Dad, don't use ChatGPT. Why are you using Gemini? You really need to be on Claude because it's more intellectual. And I'm like, wow, you guys are in the hole. This is awesome. But it's like, what?
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
Interesting question. And are you asking this because of your work in and among with the gun protection, or are you asking this because you're curious about where society's going?
Both. So I stress the importance of the human controlling the AI.
Yes.
The human in the loop, as long as we keep it's like walking a dog with a leash. When we keep it on a leash, that's not going to happen, but that's the hope, right? Our technology
isn't it off the leash already?
Yeah, well, some would say yes, it is.
China has its own AI. Russia's got its own AI. We have our AIs.
It's going so fast that you can't predict what it actually is going to be. Like what's next.
Right.
You can't look two doors down because you have no idea.
No idea.
Fair predictions in the past with technology, you could fairly predict what the next move. Now it's tripling and quadrupling overnight, and they can't you can't keep up with a prediction, let alone, where it's going. But the human in the loop, I think, is critical. You got to have human verification. You got to have humans overlooking this, because it's going to become its own beast at some point. The predictions they say for it is scary.
Yeah. So then you wonder, like, oh, great. Are we going to create a think tank, like a thought police, or an international community that will help apply logic and reason to this entity so that we keep our humanness? And I'm like, no,
who are
we
they?
can't agree.
Exactly. Who are they?
We can't agree on who deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. That's broken up.
That takes morality, and like, who are you going to put in there? Right? You can't. It's just like running the government. It's the same thing.
So it becomes ever more complicated and complex in the conversation. And I believe, and this could be a completely false proxy, I believe that there's going to be a need for the humanities more than ever. There may not be human engagement in it, but there's going to be a need for human interpretation. To your point, I took Ibogaine, but I couldn't interpret everything that came to me. And so I'm holding hope and faith. And my new word this year has been grace for myself and for my friends. I hope there's grace for everyone, our decision makers, our policy makers, the nefarious people that are lost their ways, the whole nine. And it's just not a hard and fast. But bro, I don't know. I don't know what's in store for us. And to your earlier point, connection is the mother love. Pull that connectivity away from you and me and them and us and we, and then it's just I. And if it's just I, then it's
the root of all the problems. It's the root of all the problems you spoke about earlier. And it started way back with, unfortunately, social media. Right?
Social media,
every technology that has come out has been designed to silo yourself. Now, ChatGPT, people don't have to have conversations with anybody about an idea or about a theory or about, you name a topic, chat will answer it for you, whether right, wrong, or indifferent. And so then you get siloed on your algorithm, which people to this day, it blows my mind. They still don't understand that's how it works. You're not seeing you're not seeing what's actually happening. You're seeing what you told that machine
the system wants you to see.
Yep. And that power, the mental power it has to take somebody over and get them to react this is all part of the problem. And we're being siloed. And that human connection that we need is going to be, which I think is the most dire. We started as tribes.
I don't know if this is
started as tribes.
So I struggle with, is this all intentional or is this an accidental outcome?
Yep.
And that's what
makes you wonder.
Core, I'm like, makes me wonder.
Yeah, it does. It really does make you wonder.
Accidental. Whew. Listen, brother, this has been legit. I'm going to come back to a question I asked you earlier. What question did you expect me to ask that I haven't?
I don't know. I think you covered the gamut and then some.
Nice.
I don't know if I had an expectation of a question time is our only constraint, because I only half topicked you on half those questions, because we only, every one of those questions has a deeper dive to it. We can talk about it. We're going to have you on as a guest for sure. You are beyond interesting. So maybe we can talk about more, and I'll have a more structured.
No, I like the unstructured. It's more
way better. But something to guide me. I could go on forever. But no, fantastic topics. I mean, there's so many of them, right? And then we're going to talk about fourth phase. We talk about our podcast.
Let's have a part two. Let's get you on next week for a part two. Okay.
Yeah, happy to.
So as part of the outro, let me lean into this question. So JJ, if someone wants to get in touch with you for a speaking engagement, for a consultation, for more information about ZeroEyes, or just to talk to you about human fitness and performance and optimizing their life, how would you like one to go about doing that?
So you can visit the website my wife created. So it's jjparma.com.
Can you spell that for us?
JJ Parma, JJPARMA.com.
.com.
Yep. There's fillable. I do public speaking. Like I said, talked about elite teams. You can see some of the speeches and some of the praises I've gotten, whether deserved or undeserved. But I've had some great reactions to my speech, and I'm happy to talk about what makes elite teams drive and talk about connection and everything else that we talk about on fourth phase. People can reach out, contact us on the website, write us a note. We also do, all the stuff in between: health, wellness, how to stay gold. I know you and I have a future talk about peptides and
yes,
health and fitness, which, if you're not right, which is all part of being right? It's all part of you being right so that you can be right for others. And so, happy to talk about all that stuff.
And fourth phase is your company, soon to be your podcast.
Fourth phase podcasts. Yep. We'll be going live in about a week or two. The exact date unknown, but we'll just publish and you'll be one of the first ones to know.
No, I appreciate that. So I have a rule for you. I want you to pick one, no context. You ready?
No, but go ahead.
You with something. Here we go. Morning, cold plunge or hot coffee?
Hot coffee.
Identity, SEAL commander or Boston hockey player?
SEAL commander.
The Shield, AI detection or human intuition?
Human intuition.
The Journey, Hell Week or 18 hours of Ibogaine?
18 hours of Ibogaine. Hell Week.
Legacy. Your legacy, the medals or the fourth phase podcast?
Fourth phase podcast.
Fantastic. Listen, my new brother from another, thank you for being the signal in a world of noise. For those watching, if this conversation gave you a new perspective on resilience, please hit the subscribe button. It is the only way we keep this channel independent. Join the community, rate the show, and as always, fight on. That's us, brother.
Miles, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, man. We kind of roll. I took more time than I planned with you, and I really appreciate it. I could keep going for another hour with you, brother.
Every time.